maybe offer a fun fact of something that you may not know about them, just to break the ice and get the conversation started. So I'll start with Liliana because she's the first person that I see on my screen.
Well, good afternoon, and thank you for having me, AMAC and Tarryn and all the panelists. I really appreciate the time. So my name is Liliana Rambo, and I am the Chief Terminal Management Officer for Houston Airports, which is a long title to say that I basically take care of anything and everything that happens within the terminals, both hobby and IAH. Been in the industry, the airport industry for over 12 years. And a fun fact about me, I was able, even though COVID tried to take it away from me, I was able to accomplish a long-term goal of running 100 half marathons by the time that I was 55. So that's something fun about me. And the other fun fact is that I have two wonderful, amazing daughters. One is 27 years old, very proud of her, and my other 25-year-old is extremely proud of her as well.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Liliana. I appreciate that. Tarryn Little, share your story with us. So happy to have you here.
Happy to be here, and hello, other emerging leaders. I've been seeing the shout out.
They are representing.
They are. My name is Tarryn Little. I work with RS&H, airfield civil engineer. So for your airport people, we keep it safe there. I've been with RS&H and in the industry coming up on 15 years in May. And a fun fact is I did do a summer internship in the oil field and spent a summer on a rig offshore. And if you think this is male dominated, that's a whole other level.
Oh, wow. Okay. Yeah, we will definitely have to come back to that, Tarryn, because I want to hear something about that. Okay.
Yeah. And I also have two daughters. Mine are 6 and 2.
Okay. Well, thank you so much for being here. And you're one of our, as you mentioned, one of our emerging leaders. So thank you so much. Pauline Armbrust.
Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for inviting me to be on this panel. I'm quite honored to be amongst 3 other very accomplished women. I'm Pauline Armbrust. I'm Vice President of Marketing and Communications for Aviation USA. And I'm new to the company, basically just over a year. But I did spend 17 years building my own company called Airport Revenue News. So I'm just so happy to be back in this industry. Maybe a fun fact is that I love playing golf. I'm not playing as much anymore now that I'm working, so my game has kind of gone downhill, but it is certainly my favorite hobby to do outside of work.
Wow, and you'll have to come back and tell us about the Airport Revenue News. You just brushed past that. We all know about that, but we definitely want to hear about that story as well. Andrella Kenner, please introduce yourself.
Hi, I am Andrella Kenner, President and CEO of CI Square Aviation. Been in business for 30 years, and what do I do for a living every day? I am an air navigation service provider, which means that I provide air traffic control, ground electronics, weather, and we also have a division of staffing, a staffing service agency. So one of the fun facts about me is I'm a sci-fi fanatic. So in my spare time, I am looking at something that's fun. I don't want to be in the real world. I go to the sci-fi world. So I also just had a new grandson, which I'm very proud of. And I also have a son, Michael Freeman Bayless II, who is also my succession plan. So that's my things.
Awesome. Thank you so much. So Andrella, I'm going to start with you with a good question, or a question that I have in the past when we've hosted the Fireside chat. This has been one question that people have always asked. Tell us about a challenge that you've experienced being a female in the aviation industry, and how did you overcome that challenge?
Well, I've always had a challenge in the aviation industry. I was the first in my family to go to college, grad school, and to go into business. So I've always had first, but I started out, oh gosh, we don't want to say how old I am, but I started out a very long time ago. And the vice president of Allstate Insurance Company said to me, well, Andrella, if you move to Georgia, you're going to be the only woman in that department. And that has been throughout my career.
Mm.
And so that is nothing new to me. Now, aviation is a stronger suit of that, because in my industry, I go in the room and I'm still sometimes the only woman in the room. But I have been able to diversify the company, diversify and put more people of color, more women in this industry by giving them a chance. I have one of the youngest controllers that is a manager, and she's 27, 28 years old. And I
Wow.
took a chance on her. She came out of the service. So you got to give them a chance. And I think that early days, we just didn't get an opportunity to get in this field. So now we've got to push and push and push. And I would say to any woman, just don't give up. Even if you're the only one in the room, just sit there, even if you're being quiet, and you're saying to yourself, okay, they're waiting to see what I'm going to say.
Mhm.
But by the same token, you just got to climb the ladder. Keep climbing the ladder. Look down sometime, because it really is hard, because
Absolutely.
sometimes you don't want to be the only person in the room. So I learned a long time ago, you have to have friends. And so I had a lot of male counterparts that were very generous and kind to me and made it a lot easier for me. The first time you gotta say, okay, I know I'm the only one in the room. Can you just talk to me, because I need your help? I also hired one of my deputy administrator. He was a male that came out of the FAA. So I hired him, and I will forever be thankful for. His name is Quentin Taylor. And he said, okay, Andrella, this is a male dominated environment. But we're going to work with you. So, and a lot of times they were older gentlemen and not the younger. I mean, I was a baby when I got in this industry. 30 years is a long time. So that's my answer.
Okay.
And I say to any woman, just keep climbing the ladder. Look down every now and then, but keep going up.
Yeah, thank you so much. And I usually don't jump in with a response from my perspective, but I have to. When you said most of the people that you kind of had around you, the males that you had around you, were very kind to you. I have an experience that I'll share, and I hope I don't embarrass him, but Ben DeCosta was my director in Atlanta, and Ben used to make me cry. I mean, and it was because he came back and he said to me, I see that you have more in you than you're giving me. And so until you start giving me what I know that you have in you to give me, I'm going to be hard on you. And at the time, I didn't like it. I didn't want to hear that. I'm just like, I don't want to hear that. But now that I look back on it, I'm so glad that he challenged me and made me dig deep within to become, the person that I am, the career that I have. I just don't think I would be where I am had it not been for him challenging me.
Yep.
So
Yep.
Pauline, how about you? Any challenges that you've experienced as a female and how you have overcome them?
Well, I think it has a lot to do with just being extremely competent, at what your job is at hand. I can't say that, starting the business, the Airport Revenue News, that I was ever, there were no real obstacles being a female, because I think in that space where I was covering the industry, I was pretty accepted, because the industry at the time was not, in the news. It kind of was under the radar. So I think the industry kind of embraced what I was doing. So those challenges really didn't exist for me trying to grow the business. And I think it just had to do with more with the actual, the scope of the business and what I was doing. So those kind of challenges, I mean, there were typical things like when I exhibit at ACI conferences and there was somebody behind, our booth, they would always, if it was a man, people would always automatically go to the man to ask questions or find out more information, or
versus coming to you.
Versus coming to me. So that always existed, and I think it's a reality. So I think if you sort of understand that the reality is that it's very male dominated, sometimes you get ignored or your voice is not heard. But if you just keep pushing through that, knowing that it's a reality, just being above and beyond better than your male counterparts, I think that you will always succeed.
Yeah, and I will again jump in from a previous fireside chat that we had, Angela Giddens, and I know she's on. One of the pieces of advice that she gave when she was on the panel, she said, learn as much as you can, get out of your comfort zone so that you learn things, and when there's an opportunity or opportunity presents itself, you're prepared for it because you've learned those things and you've been out of your comfort zone. So I agree with you on that, and learn as much as you can so that, again, you're ready. You're ready. So I'm going to change it up a little bit, Tarryn. I know you thought I was going to ask you that same question, but I'm not going to ask you that question. What, and I know this may this may be a question maybe for Andrella and or Liliana, but what piece of advice would you give your younger self about becoming a professional?
Oh, I guess this is where I should have read your email with the questions, huh?
No, I mean, I want you to speak from your heart. So I didn't really want you to kind of prepare responses, but just think about it. If you had an opportunity to tell your younger self something about maybe an experience that you had or have had in the industry, what could that or would that be? Or what would you do differently in your younger self to get you where you are today?
So I think the advice I would give to my younger self and to other young women out there is, if you're presented or find yourself in a situation that's, I guess it's very obvious that you're being treated a certain way because you're a woman or because of some sort of circumstance, that you should react the way you feel in that moment. Because if you hold that inside, you might regret not saying or speaking up in that moment. So, I've been in situations where I've been discounted in professional settings because I am young, and because, well, it was when I was a little bit younger, but because I was a woman, and instead of putting my hand up and saying, you will not treat me this way, I am a professional, I am an engineer, this is my design, this is how it will, I got quiet. And I would say, don't be quiet.
Okay, thank you very much. There's a question in the chat that may be easier for you. Well, I don't want to say easier, that may not be the right word, but the question is, how do I get started? I've been having a hard time just trying to get started. And being an emerging leader, it would be something that you can kind of say, how did you get started? How long have you been in the industry, Tarryn?
So I've been in the industry 15 years, and I would get started with taking whatever job is available at that time, and that'll get you in. So whether that's, something that's not your dream job, it'll get you started and it will get you that experience, and you just keep raising your hand and looking for the next step forward. So I would,
Awesome.
Any opportunity, go ahead and grab it.
Awesome. Anybody else want to give some advice on how you get started?
I would say the same thing. I will say that, and I say the same thing to the students that come through the airports, they're TSU students that have an aviation program, and, they get out with either a bachelor's or a master's in aviation, and they immediately think that they're going to come into supervisory or division manager positions. And, but then, they don't have the experience. They just have the education. And what I tell them all the time is, you need to get your foot in the door. And if you prove yourself, you see how easily people are going to identify you, and they're going to take you under their wing, and you're going to be moving up that ladder very quickly. So that's the same advice that I would give.
Andrella, I think you had your hand up. Oh, was trying to jump in.
Yeah, you were asking the question, what would I tell my younger self?
Okay.
Yeah, and I wanted to answer that question because my younger self was a lion. I felt like I could conquer the world, being the first to do everything in my family. And for those of you that don't know, my grandson is the 40th child of my mother, who was the only child, and it's a lot of us. So I had a lot to do to make a way for the next generation in my family alone. So my younger self came out being a lion. So you have to tell yourself, okay, I'm going to follow my spidey senses. Now, what is that? That means following what you really feel inside. If you think you need to go to the next step, the next step. So throughout my career, my younger self would have said, keep going, keep moving, don't stop, don't give up, don't quit. I mean, because it's days you want to quit. And so every time I would quit, I would say, well, if this don't work out, I can go give me a job. And then I became the job. And then I would say that over and over again. And so it ended up being 30 years of saying, well, if it doesn't work out, you can go get yourself a job. So that was that A+ personality. So every time something went bad, you say, okay, that didn't work out. Okay, let me see if this will work. So you keep going. I mean, I could have given up or thought, said, oh, this is too hard, I don't want to do this, because I could have found an easier road to take. So my advice from being younger and going to the older side of it, keep fighting. Mm-hmm. Follow your spidey senses and they will serve you right. And that's in the good and the bad. You're going to have good employees, you're going to have bad employees, you're going to have bad situations, you're going to lose a contract, you're going to win a contract, but you just have to keep going forward, even though you feel like you're falling off a cliff. So every time I fell off the cliff, I got back on that ladder and I remembered what I learned in my early days. And in my early days, it was never give up and put God first, and it will work its way through it. So.
Awesome. Okay. Liliana, I want to ask you a question, and there's a question in the chat that's similar to that. What do you think about having mentors? Do you have a mentor? And if so, how has that mentor shaped and or help you to pursue other adventures within your career?
So yes, so I was fortunate enough that when I was very young, and I'm like in my early 20s, I was working at the Miami Parking Authority, I know the transportation industry, and it was a female, Tarryn Wilson, and she saw again something in me. I mean, she was probably she was actually 12 years my senior, and she saw something in me, and she took me under her wings. This was back in Miami, and at that time I'd only been in the country for 10, 12 years. So if I have an accent now, could you imagine back then it was a much heavier accent. But something that Karen told me is, don't doubt yourself. Going back to the previous question of what would you tell your younger self? Do not doubt yourself. You could do it. But Karen was that mentor. She was that person that opened the door for me to get out of an administrative job into operations. She was the one that basically told me, if you want to be an executive, if you want to be able to run the company, which is what I wanted to do at that time, you need to learn operations. So she helped me and she guided me from getting out of the administrative positions into an operations position. Here at the Houston Airport, I have a tremendous mentor, Mario Diaz. And he has not just been a mentor to me, but to many people in the industry. And he's just amazing. And Mario was the person that basically said, you know what? I have a job for you. You're going to be the general manager of Hobby. And I'm like, the what? He goes, the general manager of Hobby. And I'm like, Mario, I don't think that's going to work. He's like, oh, yes, it will. You have the leadership and the management that it needs. You have SMEs around you. Just learn it and get it going. And that's what happened in 2017. And then, Lord and behold, 2020, Mario basically said, okay, I'm anointing you and you will get 5 stars for us. And I said, and in 2 years, I said, what? He goes, yeah, you here, go get it done. We're going to make you a new department and you're going to get this done. And I was like, I literally went home like for 3 days and I was like, what does he want me to do? And it was, that was the time that even at my age, I doubted myself. But again, I picked myself back up again. And I said, if he thinks I can do it, it's because I can do it. He sees something in me. And being able to get to where I've gotten, being able to do what I've done the last 3 years, move the Houston airport systems to where we are at right now, having gotten, 5 stars, 2 years in a row, best airport in North America. We just got the ART award for Skytrax. Truthfully, I feel on top of the world, but again, it's having these people that are able to be the wings beneath your, be the wind beneath your wings. And professionally, that has been Mario. Personally, that was my mom, but also my children, my two daughters. Just doing, excuse me, and opening the doors and making sure that they see that as like you said, a brown female, because I'm Hispanic, I have an accent. I walk into rooms and people look at me different. The minute that I open my mouth, it's like, well, yeah, no, why does she sound like that? And owning it. And I have learned how to own the fact that, you know what, if I had an accent, that doesn't make me less smart. As a matter of fact, the way that I say it is, it makes me smarter. I could speak more than one language, but I had to get into my own to be able to do that and be able to fit in the shoes that I have on today. There were a lot of times and nights that I doubted myself, but that's done and over with.
So Mario spoke something into existence for you and you just walked right into it. So he saw that in you. So Pauline, what is your take on mentorship?
I think a good mentor is super important, just to open the doors and just to be, to impart their wisdom. It's so important. And, I've had a few over the years, and a mentor for me now is Carlos Bernal, who's the CEO of the company. And he's just been wonderful. I mean, he obviously saw something in me. There's only one person in the industry that could have plucked me out of retirement, and that was Carlos. And he's been just a super mentor for me. I'm on the executive committee at the company, and that was kind of a new experience for me because, running a small business is very different than making, having input on strategies for a large corporation. So, it's been a wonderful experience. I love the company. Aries is a wonderful company to work for. And yes, and we actually promote mentorship, a mentorship program within the company because it's just so important for opening the doors for people that are ambitious and smart and are good for the company. And so yes, throughout my career and during when I had my company, there were a couple, like, I don't know if people remember Dick Dixon or Bill Anton. They were concessionaires who really helped me navigate the industry, kind of the politics of the industry, who I should really be meeting and speaking to, and kind of making me realize the impact that the publication had on the industry. Because back then, it was a newsletter, an 8-page newsletter that came out twice a month that, I had a good readership base, but you never really know how you're impacting people until you get the input back from your readership base. So they were really, really good at helping me grow the company and create and help me and inspired me to create new ideas and new products within the airport revenue brand.
Yeah, okay, thank you. So I'm going to read the question. It said, what does your personal board of directors, in parentheses, mentors, look like? Is it a mix of men and women? And how did you create your mentor board? And I think both Liliana and Pauline have talked about their mentors and how they, how they became their mentors. A lot of people may not understand and or know how to get somebody to be your mentor. I've been blessed in my life to have some amazing mentors, and one probably didn't even know that she's my mentor. Shanetta Griffin is a mentor of mine. I'm following her, I'm watching her, as she's progressing through her career. But for me, Ben DaCosta and Angela Giddens are two people that have looked at me, have pushed me. And I always say to people, be careful when you have a mentor, because a mentor shouldn't always agree with you. And they shouldn't make you and or force you out of your comfort zone. That's the only way you'll grow. So anybody want to jump in and talk about how you created your mentor board, or how you selected, or did they select you? Because I'll be honest, Ben selected me, and I selected Angela. She didn't know I selected her, but I called them often, and just even today, and that's been, so they've been mentors for years. But how did you select them? Or to Liliana's point, Mario just selected you. So any thoughts? Wow,
I
y'all
think
are
when
quiet.
you're a standout in some way that leadership notices and sort of want because they need to spot their future leaders. So I think their antenna is always up to really look for the people that shine and that they can really mold into what the future of the company is looking for.
Yeah. And the other thing I would say is go up to the person and ask them if they would, if they're in a position and or role that you would aspire to be in, make conversation with them, reach out to them. And Tarryn, I see you're shaking your head. Is that something that you would do as well?
Yeah, I think it is. Recently in my career, someone asked me, what do you want to be when you grow up? And I'm like, aren't I already grown up? But when I looked at him, I said, I want to be you. This is, I want your job. And he said, amazing. And he said, you know what? I'm going to cue you into everything that I do. And that way, when I'm done, and probably sooner than later, it's yours, because I know that you can do it. Also, I think mentorship sometimes happens when you don't realize it. And I think sometimes you'd be surprised of who you're a mentor to just by being open and honest and helping people. I had actually a man who's not that much, maybe 2 years younger than me, write me a letter to say how much he appreciated my mentorship. And I didn't even know I was a mentor, and it made me cry. I think sometimes you don't even realize you're a mentor to others. And I feel like most of my mentors don't know that they're my mentors, but maybe I should tell them, write them letters. It was really nice.
Okay. So I'm going to throw a general question out regarding, I want to know who's your favorite author and what's the latest book you've read?
Favorite author, I would say John Grisham. I just like his books. I mean, it's just something that I read just because when I don't have nothing else to read, right? But when I just want to be just read for the sake of reading, I think that would be my favorite author. And the latest thing that I read, probably Huddle, Brooke Baldwin. Very good book. It kind of similar to what we're talking about right now is, how to get other females to help you, how to form what we're talking about, that network of people around you to be able to help you get to the next level. Something that you were talking about, Karen, having those 3 or 4 or 5 people that you could actually call and said, hey, I need advice on A, B, C, and D, or this happened to me today. How would you handle that? So that was a good book for that. But that would be my 2.
Got it. Thank you. Anybody else?
You go ahead.
I love reading books about, when an author can draw you into their culture and there's a book called Immodest by Alice Inat that I just so loved. And one of my all-time favorites is about 1,000 Splendid Suns by Khaled Hosseini. I just love to be drawn into a different culture and a different, lifestyle because they end up having the same struggles and challenges. It doesn't matter where they're from, but it's just so interesting to read about life in a different culture. But I usually read fiction books, but I did read recently a nonfiction called Courage by Design by Dee Robinson. And it was just one of the more inspiring books that I've read. And she actually was a special guest speaker at our recent summit. But nice. It is just, it's life-changing. I mean, she really teaches and guides the reader in how to overcome fear, which everybody has them.
Sure.
And the way that she guides the reader through overcoming those fears is just so well done, and she really connects with the reader. So it's Courage by Design by Dee Robinson's wonderful.
Courage by Design. I like that.
Mhm.
Okay. Well, we're probably about a little bit more than halfway through the session. But I also want to add, and I always ask this question, if you had one piece of advice that you would like to give the attendees that may be interested in advancing their careers in the aviation industry, what would that be? We talked about a couple of things. We talked about mentors. We talked about learning as much as you can. We talked about being present, not being afraid, but what advice would you give?
I think it's really, and for any success in any industry, it's really knowing what your best talents are and finding your niche within that industry. I mean, it takes time, but I mean, if it's possible to work in many different aspects of the industry, then you can really see what you're good at. And someone once said that passion isn't necessarily what should drive your career decisions, but if you do good work that you really like, that always leads to passion.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I think
Find your niche. Okay,
yeah.
Great advice. Andrella, you look like you were about to jump in as well, so we'd love to hear from you.
Well, I always, this is my motto about everything. And I would say this to anybody that's starting out in business and careers: live in prayer, make today better than yesterday, and succeed on purpose. So if you wake up every day,
I like that.
Succeed on purpose. If you wake up every day doing your very best, and the best is all you can give, live in prayer, make today better than yesterday, and succeed on purpose.
Wow.
So that's my advice for everybody, every day.
Wow. That's great.
Yeah.
That's great. Tarryn, any advice?
I would say raise your hand. Even for something that might surprise you, or maybe something you're like, I don't know if I want to do that, but go ahead and say, yes, I'll do that. And it can lead you to, bigger and greater things.
Mm-hmm. Liliana?
I would just say kind of similar, try it out. You just never know where it's going to lead you. You never know who you're going to meet. You never know if you're going to like it until you don't try it. And if you're young, you still have a lot of time to make some mistakes in life. I think for whatever reason or another, we respect young people to go to school at 18 years old and figure out what they want to do for the rest of their lives. And that's a hard thing to be able to put through. So I definitely say, yeah, go to school, get a degree, because that paper is important. But that doesn't mean that you got to stick with that. As you guys said, find something that you like, that you love, and you will stick with it. And then work is not work any longer. Work becomes a passion. Work is something that you want to come and do. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, I think all of this is good information. And I think being in a male dominated industry, and I keep saying that because that's kind of the theme of all of our fireside chat sessions. How do you do that? How do you keep going? And I'm hearing you all be very positive and say that just keep going, raise your hand, learn what you can, have you some mentors, don't give up, succeed on purpose. Succeed on purpose. And I was trying to get it out to make sure I said it exactly like you said it. But sometimes it's difficult. It's difficult. How do you tell yourself, because that's great advice, until you're in the throes of something where you feel like you want to just scream, but you can't. So how do you keep going? What keeps motivating you when someone says, for me, when someone says, you can't do that, that's motivation for me to show you that, oh yes, I can. Oh yes, I can. But what would you all say to that? I mean, how do you keep going when you fall down? How do you have that strength to pick yourself back up? Because in all honesty, some people want to see you fall down. And
Correct.
then once you get down, how do you pull yourself up by your bootstrings? I think that's what my grandmother used to say, and keep going.
Well,
I
you
think-
remember what your mama said. You remember what your mama said.
That part.
Yes, you do. Your mother said, God didn't bring you here to let you fail, so
That's
you don't give up. So you remember what your mama said. And if you remember that, you will get up every day. And that you're my child. Have you ever heard your mama say that?
Yes,
You're
ma'am.
my child.
Yes,
And
ma'am.
so
A
when she
lot.
says that with emphasis, you know what she means. Oh, you rise above everything because you're my child. And I heard that so much when I would do this, my head would go down. She would look at me, you're my child. So it's your mama. It's your mama telling you, you don't give up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, but I think, something that you said, Karen, and I could put myself exactly what you were talking about. I think there's sometimes that we need to let ourselves just get those feelings out. And because we think that we have to be this, made of rock or iron person. Well, no, let it out, because we all have feelings. Go home and let it out whatever kind of way it is. My way is, okay. And then I feel so much better. But again, my way of clearing my head is I work out. And
You
I
run.
4:15. Yeah, well, I work out. I get up at 4:15 every morning. Between 5 and 7 o'clock, I'm working out, whether running, bicycling, boot camp, whatever. That does so much mentally, physically, and emotionally. It relieves so much tension. And the fact that I could pick up a 25 pounds dumbbells every single morning, I'm like, you know what? I got this. I go home, I take a shower, and I come into that door and I'm like, today's my day. You're not going to get me down today. And immediately that gets me into a whole entire, different mindset. But yeah, I mean, the day that it happened that night, I feel like crap. But, you allow yourself to get there, but you need to get right back out of that and say, no, I'm not going to let this person is not going to dictate how I feel today or how I'm going to perform today. To me, it's workout. It really does. It's great for my mental health. I think my children would say that.
Okay.
And you look great too.
I know, right?
Thank you.
She does.
She wears me out talking about how much she runs, and I'm like, okay, all right, girl. That is not my ministry to do that.
Try it.
Tarryn,
I think it's really important. Sorry.
Oh, go ahead. Go
No,
ahead.
no,
Pauline.
I think it's really important to always remember that failures provide opportunities. So often when we feel down, it's because we didn't accomplish what we wanted to, or that we had a failure or something. But you learn from that. If you embrace those moments and see them differently and see them as lessons, that it'll help you keep motivated.
Sure.
Yeah, I think just to add on to what everyone else said, all those things resonate with me. I think I have to remember, when do I absolutely feel my best? And I always feel my best when I try hard and when I'm in success, or when, you're invited to do things like this, or that, other people are listening, that's when I feel my best. And then, Andrella, with, what your mother said, well, I want to, think about what I say to my daughters, but mommy kept going, and also, I got bills to pay. I got to keep going, so there's that.
That part. Mhm, that
And that
part. So I know that a lot of people, as they're growing up, young girls grow up and they aspire to be this or that, or, I'm going to be this and I'm going to do this. When you all were growing up, did you ever have thoughts about working in the aviation industry in the space where you are right now?
Nope.
No?
I was going to be a computer programmer. Right. And then I said, oh, that's boring. I said, I'm gonna be an accountant. That's triple boring.
Oh,
Okay, let me go somewhere else because I can't. And then an engineer. Oh, that is really boring. So no, so let me go
Tarryn
somewhere
would
that I gotta talk
disagree
to
with
people.
Hey.
No? Okay. Well, tell me some things that well, other than Liliana, tell me some things that you thought as a little girl growing up that you would do. And then how did you make the shift to be where you are now?
I wanted to be a CPA. And so that was where I went, graduate school, finance, accounting. That was my path. And then they had this, what they call layoff section of your life. And that section led to, well, okay, I guess I'll just have to do something different. And I could go get a job, or I could go in my sunroom and fill out my 8A certifications and start going for government contracts. So I said, well, I can always start going to get another job because I was good at what I did. I was in the 10th layoff, so that meant something to me anyway. So instead of doing that, I decided to go into business, and it was the best thing I ever did. I started in IT, which I was real accounting in IT. And then somebody said, well, do you want to go after this contract with me? And I said, sure. I went after the contract, and I started off with 3 airports. And there was 3 airports later that I started really loving the aviation industry. So, but the aviation industry to me allows you to be a little bit of everything, from accounting to finance to engineers to constructions to concessions. So that's what I loved about the field. You could be anything in aviation and still have a great career path. So
yeah, it's funny that you say that, because we talk to a lot of young people, a lot of teenagers, a lot of middle schoolers, and you talk about aviation, and the only thing that they seem to know about is to be a pilot or a flight attendant. They don't know, like you said, that there's so many other opportunities that the airport can afford them if they're interested in it. Does anybody else want to share their story?
I never dreamed that I would be covering the aviation industry, but it's I always wanted my own company, and I knew that because I was always very independent. I was always a writer, but I could never have imagined that I could combine the 2 of those things. But when I was ready to start a newsletter, I heard actually a soundbite on CNN that talked about how airports in Europe receive a greater share of their revenue from retail and food than they did from airline rates and charges. I thought that was so interesting, and I started looking into it, and came upon the fact that in the U.S. In the mid 90s was really evolving in the concession side of the business. So I made a few phone calls and found out that it was a niche that nobody was covering, and it was at a time when the airport concession space was totally exploding and changing so much. But so it started as airport retail news and evolved to airport revenue news, which is now airport experience news. But it's I came to find that airports are just fascinating, dynamic places. They're basically mini cities that have just so many different aspects that are constantly changing and evolving and growing, and it's just
never a dull moment.
Never a dull moment. So yeah, I really enjoyed being part of it.
So Andrella, a question to you in the chat is like, Andrella, your story is very interesting. Do you have a book about your life?
absolutely not. I'm still living it. I'm living my best life.
True that. That's
I
true.
just haven't had a chance to get to the book part. I'm too busy.
So I think
writing
you and
proposals.
Pauline need to get together, because Pauline's a writer. So
There you
that
go.
could be a good book, a book deal coming out of that. You never know. Never know.
I am so busy writing proposals and trying to win the next deal. So it's always the next deal.
Yeah.
So writing the book is just, that might be something somebody should do for me. So
You tell your story to that person, huh? They can do it for you. Yeah.
Happy to help, Andrella. I'm sure you're
See, I love this. We're putting people together. This is amazing.
Yes.
I think this is great. You all, I am really enjoying this. As we get ready to wrap up, I would leave it up to you, and I'll make 2 announcements at the end, but I just like for you to share any last or any parting comments or comment that you would like to have shared with the group, with the attendees. And thank you all so much for being here today. It's really been a pleasure to host this event, as I always do. Anyone want to start? Last words?
Yeah, I mean, I would say, just thank you for having us. Really, this has been really great, and so great to be able to get to know a little bit more of each of you ladies. You're wonderful in your own fields and in your own space. So thank you, and Karen and AMAC. But if I have to share something, would be never to give up. I mean, and every single day is, one day is better than the other, and you're really high today, and tomorrow something happens and we get right back down. I think as females and as professionals, those of us that also have a family, sometimes it's very hard, and we feel sometimes guilty of the fact that we do spend a lot of time, with our jobs, and we have a career, and we definitely want this career, but we also have a family. And sometimes it's very hard to have that equilibrium, and we look to the side and we see this family and this perfect picture, and we want to have that, but we also see this career and we want to have that as well. And the guilt, I think a lot of us females, we take that guilt with us much heavier than our male counterparts. So for me, it will be, we're doing the best that we can with what the tools that we have in our tool chest. Just keep on going. Some days are going to be easier or harder than others.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, if you just move forward one step, you will get to the goal that you're trying to achieve.
Awesome. Thank you.
I have one last comment to my future generation.
I know, right?
Do you? I am so proud of them. I realize that the next generation is coming in. It's a big workforce that's coming out of the industry, but do you, because you are our future. And that's from the heart. I want you all to grow, to strive, ask any of us questions, because we're here to serve. So thank you.
Thank you. Tarryn, Pauline?
Yeah, I would say that, everybody has a way of balancing their priorities, but it's really good to know that it is possible as a woman to have a family and to go after your career. It's just a matter of balancing it properly, but it's possible. You just have to figure it out, and everybody is different in how they do that. And I think it's really important. I have 2 daughters that are grown, and they I often look back, because sometimes I do had that guilt as well. And they said, "No, Mom, we never felt," because I worked so much, but I often would work when they were sleeping. So it was really important that you do balance it, and it's very possible.
Awesome.
And I also think that it's really important to have patience in your career.
Sure.
That you got to go with the flow of life a little more, and not be so anxious to get to the next level, because getting to the next level does take time. You have a lot to learn. But if you always work hard and listen to your gut, I think that the results will follow you for you.
Sure. Okay, thank you. Tarryn.
Yeah, I would say, the work-life balance is going to be harder. And that's okay. And I think that each and every one of you and everyone on the call should be proud that it's harder, and that you're still doing it, and that you still show up every day, and you go home to whatever your life looks like, and you remember that it's harder and that you did it.
Awesome. Thank you so much. I will say, show up in the room regardless to who's in the room.
Yeah. Show
up and be positive and confident when you do show up in the room. Male, female, you're in there, and you deserve to be in there just like anybody else. And you got to walk in that confidence of it. So thank you so much to my amazing panel. It has been a joy and a pleasure working with you. I'm super excited that we already have some wonderful ladies identified for the next Fireside Chat, which will be in during the annual conference. So upcoming events for AMAC, on March 29th, we'll have a Legends and Leapers session on at 2 o'clock from 2 to 3 on March 29th. If you have not signed up, please do so. Go on AMAC's website and you can register for that. And then the last thing I'll say is regarding the 38th annual Business Diversity Conference, which will be held here in San Antonio, my city. I would love for you all to come and join us June 10th through 14th at the JW Hillside or Hill Country Resort and Spa. It's a long name, so I just wanted to make sure I got it out. Registration is open, so please, please, please join us. And then we will have an in-person Fireside Chat on June 14th at 8 a.m. So just come ready with your questions. It's going to be very similar to this, but we definitely want to make sure we keep the conversation going. There's several people that are on the session that I see their names, and I'm thanking you publicly for being a part of this. I know that some people had some questions that put in the chat, but I know that the ones that didn't were sending text messages and saying that they really, really enjoyed the panel. So thank you so much, ladies, and I hope you all have a great day.
Thank you, Karen. That was a great session.
Thank you.
Thank
Bye,
you. It was
everybody.
great.
Bye.
All right, bye-bye.